and we are part of SAVE, Students Against Violence Everywhere, a non-profit student-run organization. It is our mission to end school violence by empowering you as students and faculty members to take a stand and promote prevention methods that will provide a safe school community free of violence. In this organization, members are educated about the various forms of violence, the impact school violence has on the community, ways to implement prevention methods, and ultimately prevent school violence from happening in the future. Today is the start of National Youth Violence Prevention Week. The goal for this week is to educate you as students and faculty about how to recognize and report various forms of school violence. We encourage you to stand up and take a stand against school violence by becoming advocates for peace in your community. According to the National Education for Statistics, 85% of public schools have had incidents of school violence. For the academic school year 2009 to 2010, there are 1,183,700 incidents of school violence. That is approximately 40 violent acts for every 1,000 students. In order to take a stand for violence, one must first be aware of the warning signs prior to a school violence outbreak from occurring.
It is important to identify and recognize various warning signs of potentially dangerous individuals in order to report unsafe behavior or persons. So do you students and faculty have any ideas of what these possible warning signs could be? Anyone? Yeah.
Bruises.
Bruises on the body or on peers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Possible warning signs of potentially unsafe people?
People who are real isolated?
Isolated, yes. Anybody else? Does anyone have specific examples of any violence they've experienced or witnessed at school? Do you have any idea or any incidents of reporting behaviors yourself to school authorities or officials? No? Okay, so we're just going to go over some of the warning signs. So the first one we're going to talk about is social detachment. This can be seen as people who are isolating, people who don't engage in peers, no verbal communication, they don't participate in activities. The second one is similar, it's withdrawal or hopelessness. They often state things like, it doesn't matter, I'm not worth it, why should I? The third one are verbal and physical threats. So this can include destruction of property either on school campuses or in the community, vandalism. It can also include verbal threats or outbursts for anger, so it includes profanity, increased volume. It also includes like social media threats as on like Facebook or Twitter, things like I'm gonna shoot this school, things like that. So another one is disciplinary problems in school or in the community, so they can have criminal backgrounds, be delinquents, be involved with probation or parole, often grounded by their parents, things like that. The fifth warning sign could be heightened interest in weapons. So for examples that we're going to talk about later, it could be like having websites dedicated to guns, it could be violent drawings in school, things like that. Number 6 is abuse of self or of others. So people who self-harm often have warning signs of potentially dangerous behaviors. They also abuse animals, kind of goes along with a heightened risk or heightened interest in weapons, things like that, violence, death, things like that. And the last one is attempts or talks of suicide. So if anyone's attempted suicide or they often talk about it, I'm sure they have some underlying issues or concerns that could potentially lead to dangerous activity at school. So watch out for these warning signs. And now that I've discussed the warning signs, here are some examples of what can happen when warning signs don't go reported.
At Columbine High School, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold killed 12 students, 1 teacher, and committed suicide together. The factors that led to this is that they were isolated from their classmates, and it prompted helplessness, insecurity, depression, and a need for attention. They were part of a goth cult. They hated God, and they were bullied by athletes. When they were shooting in the library, Dylan said to Eric, if you see anybody wearing a white cap, you kill them. The jocks wore the white caps. And again, when I said that they hated God, they went up to one of the victims, Cassie Bernal, underneath the desk and said to her, do you believe in God? She answered yes, and they shot her in the head. The thing is that these two boys, caused a lot of harm to themselves, and they killed others. And it's just such a serious, serious issue that we really need to fix today. Virginia Tech massacre is the #1 U.S. deadliest shooting by a single gunman. Sing Cho Hung killed 32 people and wounded 25 others, then committed suicide. His factors was that when he was younger, he was diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder. And in middle school and high school, he did undergo therapy and special education support. But when he applied to Virginia Tech, in Virginia, because of the federal privacy laws, they did not know of his previous diagnosis. So he was caught stalking and harassing 2 female students, and therefore Virginia Tech mandated that Cho seek outpatient treatment, but he discontinued his medication use. Virginia Tech did not keep up with his status and if he was fulfilling what they had mandated him to do. After the shooting, authorities became aware of 30 pages detailing Cho's troubled history and criticized the Virginia Tech mental health educators who came into contact with Cho to notice his deteriorating condition and help him. Jared Loughner killed 6 people in Tucson, Arizona at Congress on Your Corner, including wounding Gabrielle Giffords. He underwent a really weird personality transformation when he was fired from Quiznos, and he was denied being in the military for unqualified services. So he went on a huge rampage, did a lot of YouTube videos just hating on the US government, and no one reported anything, even though his teachers and his peers at Pima Community College even said that they felt like he might shoot up the school or something else. At Ohio school shooting, the most recent school shooting, TJ Lane killed 3 people, and he's 17 years old, and right now he is undergoing mental examination, but they're trying to charge him as an adult. But the weird thing was after he shot those 3 kids, he did not know what he had done. He is in complete remorse, but he doesn't know what came over him, so that's why he is undergoing examination. And here's some pictures. Right there is TJ Lane and the 3 kids he killed. That's Cho, who killed 32 people. He was very, very disturbed. And here's a video of the warning signs of Columbine.
Randy and Judy Brown say a year before the high school shootings, they were so concerned about Eric Harris's violent writings on the internet that they went to police. The Browns had had trouble with Eric Harris. They say Harris had threatened their son Brooks and vandalized his car. When Brooks found threats of mass murder on Harris's webpage, he brought it to his parents.
The entire website was dedicated to how he was going to kill the entire state of Colorado.
When the Browns met with investigators from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, they say they turned over several pages from Eric Harris's website, pages that read, "I will rig up explosives all over a town and detonate each one of them at will after I mow down a whole area of you snotty rich," and it continued with a string of expletives. The page continued, "All I want to do is kill and injure as many of you as I can." One of the pages that had a recipe for a pipe bomb concluded, "Now our only problem is to find the place that would be ground zero."
The cost of not reporting these warning signs is death. The person can commit suicide or kill others, like I've shown you examples. They can suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and the people who did not come forward that reported these warning signs could have feelings of guilt afterwards. And they should have feelings of guilt because you all can make such a difference in this. If you see warning signs, if you see someone who isn't well, tell somebody. You can save your life or others. And yesterday, you see a sign that says school watch for kids, and now it's watch and report signs of trouble. Even though these tragic events took place, there are many ways for individuals to take a stand to prevent the worst from occurring.
So what exactly can you guys do about it? Well, to start, SAVE's vision has to do with schools and communities being safer and more secure, free of fear, and conducive to learning as a result of students and school officials being actively involved in meaningful violence prevention efforts. So we can provide early interventions with troubled students, such as referring a counselor, you can go to a psychiatrist, and then school involvement and a lot of prevention programs, and also provide enough prevention support on and off campus. So there are also numerous steps to reduce and prevent the risk of youth violence. It's best to have a trustworthy relationship with your students. Try talking to them, get to know them a little better, get them to understand like how they feel and understand the differences between like how they're feeling with other students and all of that. It's also very important to be more alert, recognize, and respond promptly to all the warning signs that were mentioned earlier. So like we said earlier, like the threats, as you saw in the video, Eric Harris had posted a lot of his warning signs on a website. And so there's also Facebook and Twitter and other social media websites that you can also see these warning signs. And another thing that you can look for are signs of detachment from others, like we mentioned earlier, just a lack of bond between other students. There's also disciplinary problems, the unusual interest of using weapons, and then also perceptions of hopelessness. So for you school officials out there, try to design a program for students and to allow these students and their peers to resolve differences. This allows students to understand how what they can do can really hurt people and their feelings. So by following these steps will not only reduce the risk of youth violence, but it will allow you to thoroughly recognize the early warning signs and possibly prevent future violence.
SAVE focuses on engaging, empowering, encouraging, and educating students and faculty about what's at risk when it comes to school violence, and to prevent these tragic events from happening in the first place. In the examples that you've seen, the warning signs were out there, and yet people did nothing. For Cho at Virginia Tech, if only Virginia Tech officials knew about his disorder, knew that they needed to watch him, knew that he needed to take his medication, would Virginia Tech have happened? What about at Columbine? You saw the website dedicated and saying that he's gonna shoot a school, he's gonna shoot somewhere and make it ground zero. And yet nobody said anything, as if they thought somebody else would say it. This is why we need to take a stand. Look at Jerry Loeffner. This really hits home here in Tucson. The students and faculty at Pima Community College should have said something. The warning signs were there, and they still did nothing. So it's very important for you to encourage others and to empower others to take a stand against school violence. And most importantly, please, don't sit back, take a stand, notify officials, and help a hand.
And here's in memory of the people that were lost. Thank you. Stopped right at 13.
Yeah, it was.